Since the days of the pioneer, the Kansas cyclone has been the most feared of nature's phenomena. These whirlwinds of death and destruction steal their names from the communities they destroy. What you're about to watch is how the deadliest in Kansas became known as Udall. May 25th, 1955 was a hot and windy day on the plains of Kansas. Humid air surged northward from the Gulf of Mexico. The atmosphere, it was unsettled, much like the nerves of many. Bulletins from the Weather Bureau called for thunderstorms and even the possibility of tornadoes across portions of Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. Alerts were passed along through the day on KAKE radio.
This program to bring you
With no reports coming across the wire, many felt the threat had passed. Weatherman John Froome making little mention during his 10 o'clock broadcast.
Keep the skies clear over our home. How adequate rainfall gives us bountiful crops.
The smell of spring storms overtook the community of Udall. Lightning illuminating the freshly built high school on the south side of town. 11-year-old Juanita, her nieces, and brother Johnny were just crawling into bed while their mom prepared for tomorrow's baking, pulling out a can of pineapple in the kitchen. At the same time, the lights were flickering at the community center, where Beth and Aline were cleaning up after a bridal shower, an event that drew nearly 80, but had dwindled to about a dozen.
No. Oh, let's let Lori do it.
Between the crashes of house-rattling thunder, Pat could hear her dad getting ready for what was going to be a rough night of work on an oil rig just outside of town. Earl Rowe, better known as Toots, was also the newly elected mayor of Udall.
The day, shortly the need for all of us to drive carefully and to save that life, which may be our own. And that's the news till now. This is Greg Gamer wishing you safe and good motoring. To Standard Oil Company, good night and good news.
But what they didn't know was a killer was sneaking into Kansas, a storm that would leave over 20 dead in Blackwell, Oklahoma. And it wasn't coming in unnoticed. Radars at Oklahoma A&M and Tinker Air Force Base tracking the hook-producing storm. Forecasters hand-tracing the echoes until they went out of range as they bared down on the kingpin of Oxford. And it was just after 10:30 when the lights went out in Utah.
Windows began going out all over the house. We ran from one room to the other, but the wind seemed to come from every direction.
There was no warning. The roof caved in and pinned me and my husband. I crawled through the wreckage to make sure my babies were all right.
Then it sounded like a freight train coming through the house. There was an explosion, it seemed like, and all the windows shattered.
The next thing I knew, my house began tumbling down around me.
I turned to go back into the hall, just caved in, and then the wall. Before it was all over with, my little boy, I'd lost track of him for just a minute, but I could hear him. He was crying.
In the dreadful aftermath, families were separated, friends lost. There was no source for human facts, no way to know where people were or how they had fared.
The devilish wind chewed a path of destruction across the town of 600. So wide, only a single house on the edge of town escaped significant damage. Wood-framed houses were reduced to kindling, stone and brick structures to rubble, resembling the war-ravaged streets of Europe. Trees stripped of their bark and trucks peeled from their frames, their bodies becoming one. By morning, echoes of the storm were all that remained. Half of the population injured or dead. In mere minutes, the town of Udall was erased from the map. And in a matter of hours, KAKE television was on the scene, gathering footage and providing light for rescuers. When we come back, hear from those who climbed from the rubble.
The utter destruction and devastation of those terrible 4 minutes was such that wire and surface communication simply did not exist. Udall, a town of nearly 600, had vanished.
But what we need most right now is some kind of funds to help these boys back so they can get their homes started. There's a couple ladies that lost their husbands.
Mr. Creech, you're the principal of the grade school here. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you went through this tornado blast last night.
Yes, sir.
Would you tell us of your experience?
And the wind started coming in from the northeast, and I got up to shut the window, and I heard the roar of the tornado, and I told my wife, let's go to the basement.
But your home is still standing.
Oh, yeah.
Could you describe just what it was like?
Well, it was just such a terrible noise that we didn't have time to do much of anything, so we just, I said, well, let's just get under the bed. So we pulled the bed out and under the bed, and I felt glass hit my legs as I...
You can see where the pool hall was. You see the side of that building?
Uh-huh.
That's where the pool hall was. And my dad was over there, and he walked across here with Fred Chubb and went into the community building because we had candles lit, and they were in the complete dark. And that's why they weren't killed.
Yeah, everyone that was in there was killed.
So he had left the pool hall before the storm hit.
Oh, yeah.
So the power had gone out, and maybe that was his clue to come over here because you guys had lit candles.
That's right. And so him and Fred come over to see how the ladies were doing.
What did he, in the years after that, I mean, he had to feel like he was saved.
Well, if he didn't, we kept reminding him. Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, I think he did. And there was a grocery store, a laundromat.
Childhood friends Beth and Aline crawled from the rubble of the community center into the darkness of their devastated downtown.
There was cars and debris. There was,
on both sides, so you were kind of going down the middle of it.
Yeah, the building that was here where the grocery store is, and it was 2 stories.
Okay.
And that had apartments up there, and then they had a big, my folks went there for dances.
Yeah.
Okay. The pool hall, everybody was killed here. Mr. Taylor had the pool hall.
And he was killed.
And it was his
mother that was killed in the telephone office.
The cold rain led them to seek shelter in the doorway of one of the few buildings left standing, the Oddfellows Hall.
No, and I don't know who's seen the light. I thought Cecil.
I was barefooted, and I was a little more concerned about my feet.
And we came.
I can't imagine the amount of glass and nails and debris and how you walked from there to there without...
I had no cuts on my feet at all, ever.
It was quite a while after the storm, quite a few days after the storm. All of a sudden, here I'm feeling something here, and it kept getting more red and more red, and Mom looked at it and she says, well, there's something in there. And so she got her needle and she dug on it a little bit, and she got a big splinter out that'd been in there for that many days, you know.
Following the tornado, the KAKE newsroom compiled these lists, those killed and injured in area hospitals. On this one, we find the name, Juanita Boyd.
Oh, they had me dead? I wonder why.
So you have to assume that maybe the outlook they didn't have
wasn't probably too good.
And that's your dad's name?
Yeah, E.D. Boyd. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In 1955, you were the youngest of your parents' kids. Tell me a little bit about your parents, and I mean, it's a lot of work.
It was. My dad worked at Boeing at the time, and he worked second shift. My mother took care of us kids, and she was a good mother. She baked all the time.
What did you like about her cooking?
Oh, I think she was the best cook there was. The day before the storm, they had gone to Wichita to the Safeway, I believe, is where they went and bought groceries. And when they came home, she was in the kitchen putting away the food, and she said, "Here, Juanita, look at this." And it was a can of pineapple. She said, "Tomorrow we'll make a pineapple upside down cake." So I was excited about that.
What was exciting about that?
It was the first time that she was going to make an upside down cake. She had never made one.
So that night, you go to bed about 10 o'clock.
Yeah. My dad told us girls to go to bed, so we did, and they were still up. My mom and Dad were up. Now, my brother went to bed also when we did. I don't think we'd even gotten to sleep. And my dad said, "Juanita, you girls get up, get in here." And he told my mother, he said, "It's a cyclone." We didn't know what a cyclone was.
You were scared at that point?
Absolutely terrified. You could hear the wind and the rain hitting the south of our house. And then you could hear the roar. And I said, "Mama." And the windows exploded. And I said, "Mama," again, a little louder. And then you could hear the dishes hit the patio. By that time I screamed, "Mama," real loud. Give me a second.
Oh, you're fine. Take all the time you need.
She did not take her eyes. She was at the front door. We had a pull-down blind, and she had that kind of pull back. She was just looking out. And she never answered me. She was glued to that window. What she saw, I have no idea. And all of a sudden, the couch we were on just went to the south. It just tilted, and we went right with it. Lost consciousness immediately. It was like it just took your breath. I regained consciousness one time in air.
You were flying in the air when you regained consciousness?
I did. The pain was horrific. I didn't know what it was. I just hurt. I thought that we had been bombed.
A tornado never crossed your mind, and you said you didn't really know what a cyclone was.
No. From the waist up, I was flat on my back. From the waist down, I was twisted.
So there was a tree pinning you down?
And there was barbed wire wrapped around the tree and me.
Tell me how long you were in the hospital and kind of what was that recovery like while you were in there?
I really don't have any idea how long it was, because my brother got out of the hospital at 4 weeks.
Had you seen, you had seen some family, your sister had come, but you hadn't seen Johnny yet?
No, my sisters and brothers had been there. And every time they'd come in, I'd say, "Where's my mom? Where's Patsy? Where's Mary?" Every time somebody came in that room, "They're upstairs. They're upstairs." And when my brother came, he sat down there was a big green chair in that room where I was. And he sat down in it, and I just looked at him and I said, "Johnny, is this what's left of our family?" He said, "I'm afraid so." He said, "Daddy's upstairs." And he said, "It's you and me." that's how I found out my mother was dead.
Do you gave me a packet of stuff.
Yes.
And there was a picture in there of you at the 50th, I believe the 50th kind of memorial there in Udall.
Yes.
And you're standing with Greg Gamer.
Yeah.
What was your, it says on there you were interviewed by him. What do you remember?
He came to the hospital after the storm and talked to me for a little bit.
We have about 90 seconds of that interview. Would you be willing to watch it with us?
Yeah.
All right. Can you see that?
Yeah.
All right, I'll hit play.
This is Juanita Boyd, 11-year-old girl from Udall, Kansas, who also was in the tornado disaster at Udall. Juanita, I wonder if you could tell us something about when you first noticed the storm was coming.
Oh, it was kind of dark outside, and a lot of roaring sounds.
Kind of roared like a railroad train or something of that time? This was about what time, do you remember? Was it?
About 9:30 or 10.
Uh-huh. And you were at home there with your family, just waiting, probably about ready to go to bed, is that right?
Yes.
Do you remember what happened to you? I mean, were you conscious during the time when the winds really struck?
Yes.
Do you remember what happened then? Could you tell us?
Well, the house the floor just went out from under us and just went outside. The wind picked me up. I just started going through the air, and then I went so far, and then I just passed out, and I don't remember what happened then.
That's terrible.
What do you feel watching your 11-year-old self in the hospital?
How badly I was hurt.
You had cuts all over you, and I assume that was from that barbed wire that was wrapped around you and the glass?
I don't know if you can see, but here, they're just cuts. You know, this is mainly what my body looks like, are these type of cuts, and this one on my nose. The rest of them visibly kind of doesn't show, but my body is scarred.
The constant reminder that you have of what you went through.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You ever make pineapple upside down cake?
I do.
What do you feel when you make pineapple upside down cake?
It's kind of strange. It gives me a warm feeling. I mean, I didn't get to make it with my mother, but I do make it for my family. And it just gives me a warm feeling.
I really appreciate you sitting down and talking to us today. I know this wasn't easy.
It's very difficult. My son had said to me several times, "Oh, Mom, don't be upset. If it's your time, it's your time." And I'd just say, "Son, you don't understand." And finally one day I said to him, I said, "The thing you don't realize, if you get caught up in one of those, you can't help yourself." I said, "You are literally beat to death if you survive it, or you lose your limbs." My family, to let you know, was buried in body bags. They couldn't dress them. My mother was identified by a mole on her chin. Patsy was identified by dental work, and Mary was identified by a scar on her arm. People think you just go through that, it's over, you get up and walk out. No, you don't. It's something that I would not want to live through again, let's put it that way. It's horrific.
I'd like to ask you once again, how is your family? They are out, and we know that they were in some way injured in the...
I had them to the doctor today, and they're getting along fine.
Nothing left. And all of those, you know. And I think they said, if I remember right, in just this area here, there was like 26 people killed.
Pat Krause survived the tornado, shielded by her dad, Rowe, who was the mayor and known by all as Toots.
You can see it says Toots, 1974.
Right there.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And you didn't know that was there?
No!
In 1955, the area where we stood was beyond devastated. You can't help but ask, did it ever cross his mind to just be like, let's move to Winfield or let's go to Wellington?
No. The only thing he ever said was, we'll build back, we'll build back, we're going to build back. I can remember saying, Daddy, what are we going to do? And I remember him putting his arm around me and saying, we're going to go back home. We're going to move back home. And I said, you mean we're going back to Udall? Yep, we're going to go back.
Like Juanita, we had a discovery, film she'd likely never seen. We've come across some footage. Could we watch it with you, and can we record you watching it and tell us what you think?
Sure.
Okay. I want to show it to you here.
Okay.
I'll bring my chair over.
Action of this sign is owed to belief in a myth that says trouble never strikes the same spot twice. 15 years ago today at 10:44 in the evening, the small community of Udall, Kansas was all but erased from the face of the earth.
Mrs. Krause, you were 13 years old then, and you remember the night well.
He says Mrs. Krause.
I was at home with my family.
So that's you in 1970.
I guess it is.
He says Mrs. Krause.
I don't remember, but it must be me.
You tell the exact story you just told me.
The wind was blowing, but I didn't think too much about it until our porch chairs went off our porch and the trees began breaking.
Is that when you decided to go to the
That's it.
That's why Dad said, Graham.
When the governor and so many others were doubting it.
I don't think the townspeople doubted it. I don't think they did. They knew my dad. I think they knew if anybody could help him, he would.
Do you remember, did you go to, so this was at the 1-year anniversary of the tornado, and your dad spoke. Do you remember if you were there in the crowd that day? So this is the full speech that he gives.
What you have done through sorrow, through hardships, through toil over the last year. And only through that kind of courage and friendship, and through the help and encouragement from our surrounding communities and the rest of the world, is the only way it has been possible for us to carry on and make it possible for all of us to be here today. I had set this time, the 25th of May at 11 o'clock, to show our tribute and our appreciation for our loved ones. And I hope in the future that we can carry on at this hour and at this date each year. I think this is Udall's memorial, not our national Memorial Day. And I think that we should show our respect for those people that never had a chance. We're all thankful to God that we are even able to be here today.
I appreciate you watching that with us.
You're welcome. You know, I haven't heard his voice for 41 years, and kind of touching. I was so close to my dad.
I imagine he was awful proud of the work that had been done.
Yes.
We know that there's a very optimistic spirit on the part of everyone here, as we've noticed in our talking with people around, that everyone definitely wants to rebuild, of course, as they had all along.
That's correct. And
when we started this project, we thought we would end it talking about the steps the town took to prevent a future tragedy from happening. But what we soon realized was this was a story about people and the lingering echoes of the storm.
I was complaining to to my granddaughter, who happens to live with me, about coming down here today and that I'm tired of talking about this storm, let's just forget it, and all of that. And she says, Grandma, you talk about it all the time because you're the one that remembers. So, and my folks, my mother had dementia and didn't remember anything, so I guess I am blessed too.
That's right, you are. You know me.
That is right, and I've known you since I was 5 years old.
My brother lives in Scott City. He keeps saying, I just can't believe why you want to stay there. There's no grocery store, there's no this and that. And I said, but it's home, you know? I've told Randy so many times, oh, my dad would be so proud of you for carrying on, and you know, the fire department and everything. He would be so proud of the new WST buildings and all these buildings that we have. And the community building is just wonderful now. And he would be proud.
People came together that night and for the next period of time afterwards to help rebuild the Kennedys. I can remember going to his lumberyard for years after the tornado, and he lost 3 kids. But he stayed here and he built houses. He loaned money for houses. He did sold material for houses, any way you could afford to buy them. But still, there was people here that would have had to leave if he wouldn't have stayed here and offered them a chance to affordably rebuild.
How proud do you think your mom would be of what you've been able to come through?
I think she would have been proud that I made it through and was able to work and provide for a family, because I did provide for my family.
I think I knew about 48 of the 81 that was killed. You coming down is important because if this would save one life in Wichita, Kansas, or wherever, if it would save one life, it was worth us doing.
At this time, I would like for Mr. Reverend Magison to lead us in our benediction.
Dear friends, only a year ago, we had seemingly no beginning, but the mayor promised us that we'd build back. And with that, we went forward. Today we stand together with these dear friends of ours with a great feeling within our souls. They have progressed and went forward under circumstances that cannot hardly be measured. With those dear ones around us, interested in us, giving us sympathy and hope, we still remain in Udall.